The alarm screams filled every corner of the ship. Commander Sarah Chen ran down the narrow hallway, her boots clanging against the metal floor. Red lights flashed on and off, making everything look like a nightmare. The Wandering Star was dying and she knew it. "Engineering report," she shouted into her communicator. The voice that came back was broken and scared. "Commander, the reactor is gone. We have maybe 6 hours of life support left. The radiation leak is getting worse." Sarah felt her stomach drop. They were 3 weeks from the nearest human outpost. Their distress beacon was broadcasting into empty space. Nobody was coming. Nobody even knew where they were. She reached the bridge and looked at her crew. 12 faces stared back at her. 12 people who trusted her to bring them home. Jenkins was holding his stomach, already sick from the radiation. Maria was trying to stop a nosebleed. They were all going to die out here in the dark between the stars. "Keep the beacon running," Sarah said, trying to keep her voice steady. Someone might hear us, but she didn't believe it. This region of space was empty. They had been exploring, mapping new routes, being brave and stupid like humans always were. Now they would pay the price. Hours passed like years. The ship got colder. The air started to taste wrong. Jenkins collapsed and they carried him to the medical bay. The doctor shook his head. There was nothing he could do. The radiation had cooked them all from the inside. Sarah sat in her chair on the bridge and thought about Earth. She thought about her son, Marcus, only 5 years old. She had promised to come home. She had promised to bring him a star map showing where Mommy had gone. Now he would grow up without her. "Commander." The communications officer suddenly sat up straight. "I'm picking up something. A ship. It's not human." Sarah's heart jumped. "Can you identify it?" "No, ma'am. The design is nothing in our database. They're approaching us." Fear mixed with hope in Sarah's chest. Alien contact was always dangerous. Humanity had only met 3 other species, and one of those meetings had ended in violence. But what choice did they have? The alien ship was beautiful. It looked like a sea creature from Earth's oceans, all smooth curves and flowing lines. It was much bigger than the Wandering Star. Lights glowed soft blue along its hull. A voice came over the radio. It was strange, full of clicking sounds, but the translation software worked. "Human vessel, this is the Velkari ship Gentle Current. We received your distress call. Your ship is dying. Do you need help?" Sarah almost cried. "Yes, God, yes." "We have 12 crew. Radiation exposure. Life support failing." There was a pause. Then the voice came back. "We are not supposed to interfere with other species. Our laws are clear. But my crew has voted. We cannot leave you to die. Prepare for docking." The next few hours were a blur. The Velkari looked like reptiles that walked on 2 legs. Their skin was green and covered in small scales. Their eyes were large and yellow. But their hands were gentle as they carried the sick humans to their medical bay. Captain Thesick stood over Sarah as his doctor worked on her crew. "Your species is very fragile," he said. His voice was kind, not mocking. "The radiation would have killed you in hours." "Why are you helping us?" Sarah asked. "You said it was against your laws." Thesick's head tilted in a way that seemed like a smile. "Because it is the right thing to do. Laws are important, but mercy is more important." My crew agreed. "We will face punishment when we return home, but we will face it knowing we did what was right." They saved all 12 humans. Every single one. The Velkari gave them medicine, food, clean air. They fixed the Wandering Star enough to make it home. It took 2 weeks, and the Velkari stayed with them the whole time, making sure they were safe. On the last day, before the Wandering Star jumped back into human space, Sarah stood with Captain Thesick in the docking bay. "I don't know how to thank you," she said. "No thanks are needed," Thesick replied. "Go home to your families." Sarah shook her head. "No, you need to understand something about humans. We remember. We remember kindness and we remember debts. My people will know what you did. We will not forget this. Ever." She pulled out her personal recorder and spoke into it, making sure the computer saved every word. "I am Commander Sarah Chen of the Terran Explorer Corps. Today, Captain Thesick and the crew of the Velkari ship Gentle Current saved 12 human lives. They risked their careers and their freedom to help strangers. Humanity remembers its friends. We will not forget." She gave a copy of the recording to Thesick. "Keep this. I don't know if we'll ever meet again. But if your people ever need help, any help at all, you send this to us. You understand? Any help at all." Thesick took the recording device. He didn't understand, not really. How could he? The Velkari didn't think the way humans did. They didn't carry debts across years and decades. They didn't build their entire culture on loyalty and remembering. But he would learn. The whole galaxy would learn. Sarah Chen went home. She held her son Marcus and told him about the kind aliens who saved Mommy. She filed her report, and it went into the Terran Historical Database, marked important, marked permanent. Captain Thesick was demoted when he got home, just as he expected, but he kept the recording device. Sometimes, late at night, he would play it and listen to the human woman's promise. Neither of them knew that 40 years later, that promise would shake the stars. The sky above Velkari Prime burned red with fire. Captain Sela Thesick watched from the bridge of her small patrol ship as another orbital station exploded. The Kreth had been attacking for 3 weeks and her people were losing badly. "Captain, we're receiving evacuation orders," her communications officer said. His scales were pale with fear. "All military vessels are to escort the colony ships away from the home system." Sela felt her chest tighten. Evacuation. That meant they had lost. The Velkari were leaving their home forever. The Kreth Dominion had come without warning. Their massive warships had dropped out of hyperspace and immediately began attacking. They gave no reason. They demanded no surrender. They just killed. The Velkari were not warriors. They had a small defense force, mostly for rescue operations and dealing with space debris. They had no battleships, no weapons that could match the Kreth. They had tried to negotiate, tried to talk, tried everything except fight back effectively. Nothing worked. Now thousands of Velkari were dead. Whole colonies were silent. Refugee ships crowded the space lanes, desperate to escape before the Kreth caught them. Sela guided her ship toward the refugee fleet. She could see hundreds of vessels, most of them civilian transports never meant for long journeys. Families were packed inside, carrying whatever they could grab. They were leaving behind homes, possessions, history, everything. "How many got out?" Sela asked quietly. "Maybe half the population," her officer replied. "Maybe less. The outer colonies had no warning. They're gone." Sela closed her eyes. Gone. Millions of people just gone. That night, after her ship docked with the main refugee fleet, Sela visited her grandfather in the medical ship. Elder Thesick was 90 years old, ancient for a Velkari. He lay on his bed, his scales dull with age, but his eyes were still sharp. "Grandfather," Sela said, sitting beside him, "we're abandoning the homeworld tomorrow. The Kreth are too strong." Thesick made a sound that was almost a laugh. "We were always too peaceful, too kind. The galaxy mistakes kindness for weakness. The Council sent requests for help to every species we know," Sela said. "Everyone refused. They don't want to anger the Kreth." Thesick was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, "Did they contact the humans?" Sela blinked. "The humans? Grandfather, that was 40 years ago. They probably don't even remember us. I have something to show you." Thesick reached under his pillow with a shaking hand. He pulled out an old recording device. "The human commander gave me this. She made me a promise." He played the recording. Sela heard the voice, strange and alien, speaking through the translator. "Humanity remembers its friends. We will not forget." "That was a lifetime ago," Sela said gently. "She might not even be alive anymore." "Humans live shorter lives than us," Thesick agreed. "But they also remember longer. It is strange, but I learned this about them. They carry debts across generations. They teach their children to honor the promises their parents made." Sela looked at the old recording device. It was foolish. The humans were far away. They had their own problems. Why would they care about the Velkari? But what other choice was there? "The Council won't authorize it," she said. "They've given up on outside help." Thesick smiled, showing his old teeth. "Then don't ask the Council. You're a ship captain. You have access to long-range communications. Send the message yourself." "I could be arrested for that." "I was demoted for saving humans," Thesick said. "I never regretted it, not once. Sometimes doing the right thing means breaking the rules." Sela sat with that for a while. Then she stood up and kissed her grandfather's forehead. "I'll do it." That night, alone in her ship's communication room, Sela composed a message. She attached the old recording from Sarah Chen. She added the star charts from that rescue 40 years ago. She included footage of the Kreth attacks, the burning colonies, the refugee ships, and she wrote simply, "We once helped you. We remember our friends, do you?" She aimed the transmission toward human space and sent it at maximum power. Then she erased the logs so nobody could prove what she had done. She didn't expect an answer. The humans were weeks away, and the message might not even reach them. Even if it did, why would they care? 12 humans saved 40 years ago. Why would an entire species risk war with the Kreth for that? Sela returned to her duties. She escorted refugee ships. She watched her homeworld grow smaller in the distance. She attended briefings where the council discussed finding a new home, somewhere far from the Kreth. A week passed. Then another. The Kreth pressed their attack. More Velkari died. On the 14th day after she sent the message, Sela was on the bridge when alarm started screaming. "Captain, massive hyperspace signatures," her sensor officer shouted. "Multiple contacts. Dozens of them." "No, hundreds." Sela's blood went cold. The Kreth had found the refugee fleet. This was the end. "Identify those ships," she ordered, her voice shaking. The sensor officer worked frantically. Then he looked up, his face confused. "Captain, those aren't Kreth signatures. The energy pattern is different." "I'm checking the database." "I'm checking." "Captain, those are human ships." Sela stood up slowly. "How many?" "Still counting." "Over 300 vessels. Military ships, cargo haulers, private vessels, everything. They're all broadcasting the same message." "What message?" The officer's voice was full of wonder. "They're saying we remember. The Velkari are under our protection." Sela ran to the observation window. She could see them now, dropping out of hyperspace in perfect formation. Ship after ship after ship, all bearing the markings of Earth. They came. After 40 years across all that distance, they came. Sela felt tears running down her face. She grabbed her communicator. "Get me Elder Thesic." "He needs to know." They remembered, grandfather. The humans remembered. In his medical bed, Thesic heard the news and smiled. He had been right about them. Humans were strange, violent, dangerous creatures. But they were also something else. They were loyal, and the Kreth were about to learn what that meant. Admiral Marcus Chen was drinking coffee in his office when the priority alert came through. He set down his cup and opened the file. What he saw made his blood freeze. The message was in Velkari. The translation appeared beneath it. Attached were star charts, old ones from 40 years ago, and there was a voice recording. His mother's voice. Marcus played it 3 times. Each time he heard his mother promise that humanity would remember, that they would not forget their friends. He pulled up the historical files. The Wandering Star incident, 12 crew saved by a Velkari vessel. Captain Thesic had risked everything to save humans he didn't know. The new message was clear. The Velkari were dying. An enemy called the Kreth was wiping them out. They needed help and they had nowhere else to turn. Marcus stood up and walked to his window. Below him, Earth turned slowly, blue and green and beautiful. His mother had died 10 years ago. She had lived long enough to see him make admiral. Her last words to him were about duty, about honor, about keeping promises. He pressed his communicator. "Get me the Joint Chiefs. Emergency meeting now." 20 minutes later, Marcus stood in a room full of the most powerful people in the Terran military. He showed them the message. He played his mother's recording. "The Velkari are not our allies," General Thompson said carefully. "We have no treaty with them. No obligation." "They saved 12 of our people," Marcus replied. 40 years ago, Thompson said. "Most of those people are dead now. The universe has moved on." Marcus felt anger rising in his chest. "My mother is dead. But her promise isn't. She spoke for humanity. She said we would remember." "One woman's promise doesn't commit our entire fleet," another admiral said. "We need to think strategically. The Kreth are powerful. This could start a war." Marcus looked around the room. He saw calculation in their eyes, politics, strategy. Everything except the one thing that mattered. "Fine," he said. "You're right. We can't order our ships to help. That would be wrong." The generals relaxed slightly. "But we can ask them," Marcus continued. He pulled out his personal command tablet and accessed Protocol Nightingale. It was an old system built decades ago for emergencies. It created a direct communication line to every Terran ship captain, military or civilian. It bypassed all the normal chains of command. "Admiral, what are you doing?" Thompson demanded. Marcus started typing. "I'm sending a message to every captain in our fleet. I'm telling them what happened. I'm showing them my mother's promise. And I'm asking who wants to go help the Velkari." "You can't do that," Thompson said, standing up. That's against protocol. Protocol Nightingale exists exactly for this purpose, Marcus replied calmly. For emergencies when normal command structure is too slow. I'm activating it. You'll start a mutiny, another general warned. No, Marcus said. I'm giving our people a choice. He finished typing and hit send. The message went out to every Terran vessel in space. Thousands of them. Military battleships, cargo haulers, explorer vessels, mining ships, passenger transports, everything. The message was simple. The Velkari once saved 12 humans when they had nothing to gain. Now they're dying. Here are the coordinates. Who's coming? For a moment, nothing happened. The room was silent except for breathing. Then Marcus's tablet started beeping. One response, then another, then 10, then 100. The responses flooded in so fast the system started lagging. Every captain seemed to be answering at once. Captain Martinez of the cargo hauler Big Bertha. I'm changing course. See you there. This is Commander Jackson on the destroyer Vengeance. My crew voted. We're going. Captain Liu of the mining ship Fortune's Favor. We're not military, but we've got some weapons. Count us in. Captain Williams on the passenger liner Starlight Dreams. I'm dropping off my passengers at the nearest station and heading to Velkari space. My grandparents were on the Wandering Star, I owe them. On and on they came. Military ships breaking formation. Cargo haulers dumping their loads at the nearest station. Private vessels changing course mid-journey. Even a prison transport ship sent a message. This is Warden Peters on the lockdown. My prisoners voted too. They want to help. We're coming. General Thompson stared at the screen in shock. This is insane. They're abandoning their posts. Ignoring orders. I didn't give them orders, Marcus said quietly. I asked them a question. They're giving their answer. Within 2 hours, over 300 ships had committed to going to Velkari space. The number kept growing. Ship captains were coordinating on their own, forming strike groups, sharing intelligence, planning attack runs. The Terran military hadn't ordered any of this. They were just watching it happen. Sir, Marcus's aide said, pulling up a tactical display. They're organizing themselves. Captain Rodriguez on the Beijing is acting as fleet coordinator. They've established supply lines. Medical ships are grouping in the center. Combat vessels on the outside. It's actually a pretty good formation. Marcus felt pride swell in his chest. This was humanity at its best. Not waiting for orders, not asking permission. Just doing what was right. General Thompson sat down heavily. What have you done? I reminded them what we are, Marcus said. The Velkari saved 12 people. Those 12 had children. Those children had children. How many humans are alive today because Captain Thesic showed mercy 40 years ago? Hundreds? Thousands? He turned to face the room full of generals and admirals. The Velkari didn't save 12 lives. They saved entire bloodlines, families, futures, and now they need help and you want us to hide behind politics and strategy? Nobody answered. I'm going too, Marcus said. The Remembrance launches in 3 hours. Anyone who wants to join us is welcome. He walked out of the room. Behind him, he heard arguing, shouting, people demanding he be court-martialed. He didn't care. In the docking bay, his ship's crew was already preparing for launch. They had heard the message, too. They were ready. Marcus stood on his bridge and watched as more and more ships reported ready. The fleet was assembling itself, coordinating without central command, moving with a purpose that transcended orders. Sir, his communications officer said, we're receiving a message from the civilian ship Hope's Light. It's a medical vessel. They're volunteering to join the fleet. Welcome them, Marcus said. Sir, they're also asking if we know what we're getting into. The Kreth are supposed to be very dangerous. Marcus thought about his mother. About Captain Thesic risking his career to save strangers. About 12 humans who got to go home because someone showed them mercy. Tell them we know exactly what we're getting into, he said. Tell them we're paying a debt that's 40 years old. And tell them that humanity always pays its debts. The fleet prepared to jump. 317 vessels carrying thousands of humans all heading toward a war that wasn't theirs. But it was theirs. The moment Captain Thesic chose mercy over protocol, it became theirs. The Kreth had no idea what was coming for them. Commander Dreth of the Kreth Dominion watched his screens with satisfaction. Another Velkari colony was burning. The little reptiles were fleeing in all directions. Soon, the entire sector would belong to the Kreth. Sir, we're detecting hyperspace signatures, his sensor officer said. Dreth barely looked up. More refugees, let them run, we'll hunt them down later. No, sir. These are different. Very different. I'm reading over 300 vessels. They're coming in fast. That got Dreth's attention. He stood up and walked to the main display. The signatures were appearing on the edge of the system, ship after ship dropping out of hyperspace in perfect formation. Who are they? Dreth demanded. Unknown, sir? Wait, I'm getting identification codes now. They're human vessels, Terran ships. Dreth frowned. Humans? What are humans doing here? He pulled up what little data the Kreth had on humanity. A relatively new species, moderate technology, no major wars in their history. They kept to themselves mostly, nothing impressive. They must be evacuating the Velkari, Dreth decided. Probably some humanitarian mission. Ignore them unless they interfere. But the human ships weren't heading toward the refugee fleet. They were spreading out in attack formation, positioning themselves between the Kreth fleet and the Velkari colonies. Sir, we're being hailed. It's the humans. Put it through, Dreth said, annoyed. The face that appeared on his screen was human. Male, older, with gray hair and hard eyes. This is Admiral Marcus Chen of the Terran Expeditionary Force. The Velkari are under our protection. You will cease all hostile actions immediately and withdraw from the system. Dreth stared at him for a moment. Then he laughed. You're joking. You have no authority here, human. This is Kreth territory now. Leave, or be destroyed. The human's expression didn't change. You have 1 hour to begin withdrawal. After that, we will consider you hostile and act accordingly. The screen went dark. Dreth looked at his officers. Several of them were smiling. They're insane, his weapons officer said. They're outnumbered. Our ships are bigger and better armed. Prepare for combat, Dreth ordered. Let's teach these humans not to interfere in Kreth business. The Kreth fleet had 87 warships, large, heavily armored vessels built for conquest. They had crushed the Velkari easily. These humans would be no different. The hour passed. The human fleet did not withdraw. Instead, they tightened their formation. All ships, attack pattern Theta, Dreth commanded. Destroy them. The Kreth ships surged forward, weapons charging. It should have been a quick battle. It wasn't. The human ships moved like nothing Dreth had ever seen. They didn't try to outgun the Kreth vessels. Instead, they swarmed. 3 or 4 human ships would target a single Kreth battleship, hitting it from different angles, coordinating their fire with perfect precision. Sir, we're taking heavy damage on the forward line, his officer reported. The humans are targeting our weapon systems and engines. They're disabling ships without destroying them. Then destroy them, Dreth shouted. But the humans were fast. Their smaller ships darted between Kreth vessels, making it hard to get a clear shot. And when Kreth ships did hit them, the humans didn't retreat. They kept coming. Dreth watched in horror as a human cargo hauler, clearly damaged and venting atmosphere, suddenly accelerated toward one of his battleships. What is that ship doing? Sir, it's on a collision course. The cargo hauler slammed into the Kreth battleship at full speed. Both ships exploded in a ball of fire. They're ramming us, Dreth's weapons officer shouted. They're deliberately sacrificing their ships. It got worse. A group of human medical vessels had positioned themselves near a cluster of Velkari colony ships. When Kreth fighters tried to attack the colonies, the medical ships moved into the line of fire. They had no weapons, but they used their own hulls as shields. Sir, the humans are protecting the Velkari civilians with their own bodies, his sensor officer reported. They're taking hits meant for the refugees. Dreth couldn't understand it. What kind of species did this? The Velkari were nothing to the humans. Why were they dying for them? Focus fire on that large human ship, Dreth ordered, pointing at Admiral Chen's flagship. Kill their leader. The Kreth fleet concentrated their weapons on the Remembrance. The human flagship's shields blazed with energy, flickering and failing under the assault. But before they could finish it, a dozen human ships moved in front of the Remembrance. They formed a wall with their own vessels, absorbing the fire meant for their admiral. They're protecting him, Dreth's officer said, voice filled with disbelief. They're letting themselves be destroyed to keep him alive. 3 human ships were blown apart, but the Remembrance survived, and the human counterattack was brutal. Hours passed. The battle turned into chaos. The Kreth had better ships, but the humans had something else. They had coordination that seemed almost telepathic. They had a willingness to sacrifice themselves that Dreth found terrifying, and they had a fury that drove them forward no matter the cost. "Sir, we've lost 32 ships," his officer reported. "Our casualties are severe. The humans are not stopping." Dreth looked at his screens. Human ships were everywhere, pressing the attack with relentless efficiency. Even the civilian vessels were fighting, using whatever weapons they had improvised. Mining ship had attached its industrial laser to a targeting system and was cutting through Kreth armor. A passenger liner was using its mass as a battering ram. Even the prison transport was firing crude missiles made from its cargo containers. Every human ship seemed to know what every other human ship was doing. They moved like a single organism, with 300 bodies. "Sir, the humans are broadcasting a message on all frequencies," his communications officer said. "What does it say?" "It's repeating over and over. It says, 'The Velkhari saved 12 of us. We will not let them die. You cannot break us. You cannot stop us. Leave now or be destroyed.'" Dreth felt something he hadn't felt in a long time. Fear. The Kreth were warriors. They had conquered dozens of species, but they had never fought anyone like this. The humans weren't fighting for territory or resources. They were fighting for loyalty, for honor, for a debt that was 40 years old. "Sir, Admiral Chen is hailing us again." Dreth accepted the call. The human admiral's face filled his screen. There was blood on his forehead and smoke behind him, but his eyes were steady. "Commander Dreth," Chen said quietly, "I'm going to say this once more. Withdraw from Velkhari space. Right now, or my fleet will destroy every single one of your ships. We will not stop. We will not surrender. We will die before we let you harm our friends." Dreth looked at his tactical display. He was losing. Against an enemy that should have been easy to defeat. He was losing. "Why?" Dreth asked. "Why are you doing this? What are the Velkhari to you?" Chen smiled, and it was a terrible smile. 40 years ago, they saved 12 humans. Those 12 people mattered to us. Every single life matters to us. And we remember. We always remember. Dreth made his decision. "All ships, withdraw, full retreat, get us out of this system." The Kreth fleet turned and fled. Behind them, the human fleet held position, making sure the retreat was real. On the Remembrance, Admiral Chen slumped in his chair. They had won, but the cost had been high. 43 human ships destroyed, thousands of casualties, but the Velkhari were safe. The refugees were safe. The debt was paid. "Sir, we're receiving a transmission from Captain Thesik," his communications officer said. Chen smiled. "Put her through." The Velkhari woman's face appeared on his screen. She was crying. "Admiral Chen, I don't have words. You came. You all came. You saved us." "Your grandfather saved us first," Chen replied. "We're just returning the favor. That's what friends do." 3 weeks had passed since the battle. The Kreth were gone, fled back to their own territory. The Velkhari homeworld was safe. The refugees were coming home. Admiral Marcus Chen stood on the surface of Velkhari Prime, watching the reconstruction efforts. Human engineers worked side by side with Velkhari builders, repairing damaged structures and rebuilding what the Kreth had destroyed. A young human woman, barely 20, was teaching a group of Velkhari children how to reinforce a wall. A Velkhari elder was showing a human technician their traditional building methods. Everywhere Marcus looked, he saw cooperation and friendship. "Admiral Chen," a voice said behind him. Marcus turned to see Captain Thesik approaching. Beside her, supported by a walking frame, was a very old Velkhari. His scales were dull with age, but his eyes were bright. "This is my grandfather," Sela said. "Elder Thesik. He wanted to meet you." Marcus felt his throat tighten. This was the man. The one who had saved his mother and her crew 40 years ago. The one who started everything. Thesic moved forward slowly. He looked up at Marcus with those yellow eyes. You are Sarah Chen's son. I see her in your face. She spoke of you often, Marcus said. She told me and my children about the kind alien captain who saved her when he had nothing to gain. I gained something, Thesic said softly. I gained the knowledge that I did the right thing. That was worth any punishment. Marcus reached into his pocket and pulled out a small device. My mother left this for you. She recorded it before she died. She made me promise to deliver it if we ever found you again. He pressed play. His mother's voice filled the air, older than in the first recording but still strong. Captain Thesic, if you're hearing this, then my son has found you. I don't know what the circumstances are, but I know this. Humanity keeps its promises. We always have. We always will. Thank you for giving me the chance to watch my son grow up. Thank you for giving him the chance to exist. You saved 12 lives, but you saved thousands more. All the children we had, all the grandchildren, they're all here because of you. We will never forget that. Never. Thesic's eyes filled with tears. Velkari didn't cry the same way humans did, but the emotion was the same. I had no idea, he whispered. I just wanted to help. That's all it takes, Marcus said. One act of kindness. One moment of choosing to do the right thing even when it's hard. You changed everything. Sela spoke up. Admiral, the Velkari Council wants to hold a formal ceremony. They want to thank your people properly, to establish a permanent alliance between our species. Marcus nodded. My people would like that. The ceremony was held in the central plaza of the Velkari capital. Thousands gathered, both Velkari and human. The entire human fleet had come down to the surface. Even the wounded who could walk attended. The Velkari council leader, an ancient female named Ses, stood at the podium. Today, we honor the humans of Terra. They came across the stars to save us. They asked for nothing in return. They expected no reward. They came because 40 years ago we showed mercy to 12 of their people. They came because they remember their friends. She turned to Marcus. Admiral Chen, your people have shown us something we thought was rare in the galaxy. True loyalty, unshakable honor. You have saved our entire civilization. How can we possibly repay this debt? Marcus stepped forward. The plaza was silent. He looked out at all those faces, human and Velkari, watching him. Elder Thesic asked me the same question. 40 years ago, Marcus said, when my mother asked how to thank him for saving her crew. He said no thanks were needed. He said he was just doing what was right. Marcus walked over to where Thesic sat in a place of honor. That's my answer to you. No thanks are needed. You saved 12 humans when you could have ignored us. Those 12 people had children. Those children had children. My grandmother was on that ship. If she had died, I wouldn't exist. My children wouldn't exist. Their children wouldn't exist. He turned back to the crowd. How many humans are alive today because one Velkari captain chose mercy? How many of us owe our existence to that one decision? Hundreds? Thousands? Maybe more. Marcus's voice grew stronger. Your grandfather didn't save 12 lives, Captain Sela. He saved entire bloodlines, entire futures. Every person in my fleet is here because of him. Every single one of us. We're all connected to those 12 people he saved. The crowd was absolutely silent. So you ask how you can repay us? Marcus continued. You already did, 40 years ago. You showed us that there are good people in the universe. People worth fighting for, worth dying for. That's a gift beyond measure. Thesic stood up slowly, supported by his walking frame. He moved to stand beside Marcus. I have something to say, the old Velkari announced. Everyone turned to listen. When I saved those humans, my government punished me, Thesic said. They said I broke the rules. They said I interfered where I shouldn't. They were wrong. I made the right choice and I knew it in my heart. But I never imagined this. I never thought. That one decision would matter so much. He looked at Marcus. Your mother promised me that humanity would remember. I kept her recording for 40 years. On bad days, I would play it and wonder if she meant it. If humans really remembered debts that old. Thesik's voice cracked with emotion. Now I know. You came with hundreds of ships. You fought for us. You died for us. For a kindness shown 4 decades ago. I do not understand humans fully, but I understand this. You are the most loyal species I have ever encountered, and I am proud to call you friends. Marcus embraced the old Velkari gently. Around them, humans and Velkari began to cry and cheer together. Captain Rodriguez, who had coordinated the fleet during the journey, stepped forward. Admiral, the captains have something to say. One by one, the human captains came forward. Each one told their story. My grandfather was on the Wandering Star, Captain Williams said. He met my grandmother after coming home. I'm here because of you, Elder Thesik. My wife's great-aunt was saved by you, Captain Martinez said. Our children exist because you showed mercy. I'm not related to anyone on that ship, said Captain Liu. But I came anyway, because that's what humans do. We protect our friends. On and on they came, each one connecting themselves to that moment 40 years ago. Some through blood, some through marriage, some through simple loyalty. It didn't matter. They all came. Cess, the council leader, watched this with wonder. I don't understand, she said to Marcus. Not all of these people are related to the Wandering Star crew. Why did they come? Marcus smiled. Because when you save one human, you save all of us. We're connected, we're family, even when we're not related. That's what humanity is. We remember every kindness, we repay every debt, and we protect our friends no matter the cost. He looked out at the crowd. The Kreth learned that. They thought they could attack the Velkari without consequences. They were wrong. They attacked our friends. They attacked people we owed a debt to. So we came. All of us. What happens now? Sela asked. The Kreth might return. They won't, Marcus said firmly. We're building a defense station in orbit, a permanent one, crewed by both humans and Velkari. If the Kreth come back, they'll face both our fleets. And I suspect once this story spreads through the galaxy, other species will think twice before attacking the Velkari. Why? Cess asked. Because everyone will know that the Velkari are friends of humanity, and everyone will know what happens to species who hurt our friends. The ceremony ended with a feast. Humans and Velkari ate together, shared stories, made friendships that would last generations. Children of both species played together in the plaza. Late that night, Marcus stood with Thesik on a balcony overlooking the city. The old Velkari looked at the stars. Your mother kept her promise, Thesik said softly. She always did, Marcus replied. That's what made her human. I still don't fully understand your species, Thesik admitted. You are violent and dangerous. You brought hundreds of ships to a war that wasn't yours. You lost thousands of your people, all for a debt 40 years old. Marcus nodded. That's what makes us human too. We're dangerous, yes. We're violent, yes. But we're also loyal. We're also honorable. We remember our friends. And we protect what we love. He put his hand on the old Velkari's shoulder. You showed mercy when you didn't have to. You chose kindness when it would have been easier to ignore us. That changed everything. Not just for 12 people, but for our entire species. You taught us that there are people worth saving in this universe. Thesik looked up at him. And now everyone knows, Marcus said. They know that if you help a human, even one human, even 40 years ago, we will cross the galaxy to help you back. They know that we pay our debts. They know that we remember. Far across the galaxy, in a trading post near the frontier, a young alien trader was helping a stranded human crew repair their ship. His partner asked why he would risk it. The trader pointed to a newsfeed playing on a screen. It showed human ships protecting Velkari colonies. It told the story of Captain Thesik and the Wandering Star. It explained how 300 human vessels had come to repay a 40-year-old debt. That's why, the trader said. Because if you help a human, they remember. 40 years later, an armada shows up. I've heard the stories now, everyone has. You help a human and they never forget. His partner looked at the news feed nervously. That's terrifying. The trader smiled. That's humanity. The stars looked different from the observation deck of the USS Mercy. Lieutenant Samantha Wright stood with her hands clasped behind her back, watching as Earth's blue sphere grew smaller in the distance. After decades of isolation, humanity had finally joined the Galactic Confederation. This mission, their first major humanitarian effort beyond the solar system, would show the galaxy what humans stood for. Beautiful view, isn't it? Dr. Alan Garcia stepped beside her, his tired eyes reflecting the starlight. It is, Samantha replied. Though I'll feel better once we reach Proxima and deliver the supplies. The USS Mercy was the flagship of a 5-vessel convoy bound for Proxima Centauri's third moon. 3 ships carried medical supplies and personnel, while 2 light escort vessels provided protection. The moon's colony was suffering from a mysterious plague that had already claimed thousands of lives, affecting both human settlers and the native Proximan species. Any progress on identifying the pathogen? Samantha asked. Alan shook his head. Not yet. The samples we received show characteristics unlike anything in our databases. That's why I need to get there. See it firsthand. The ship's intercom crackled. Lieutenant Wright, please report to the bridge. Samantha nodded to Alan. Duty calls. Get some rest, Doctor. You'll need it when we arrive. The corridors of the Mercy were spotless white, befitting a hospital ship. Crew members nodded respectfully as she passed. Within minutes, she reached the bridge, where First Officer Jack Sullivan waited at the command station. Status report? Samantha asked as she settled into the captain's chair. All systems nominal, Jack replied, his red beard neatly trimmed against his uniform. We'll reach the jump point in approximately 4 hours. Communication lines with Earth remain open and we're receiving updates from the colony. Things are getting worse there. They lost another 50 last night. Samantha frowned. Push our engines to 95%. I want to shave time off this journey if possible. Yes, Lieutenant. Jack turned to relay the orders. Ambassador Eliza Monroe entered the bridge, her formal diplomatic uniform standing out among the medical staff's attire. Lieutenant Wright, I've just finished a call with the Confederation Council. They're impressed with Earth's response to this crisis. We're not doing it to impress anyone, Samantha replied. Those people need help. Eliza smiled. And that's exactly why it's impressive. Many species in the Confederation wouldn't risk their own for a distant colony, especially one with non-human inhabitants. Then they're about to learn how humans operate, Samantha said, turning her attention to the navigation displays. The next 12 hours passed in a blur of preparations. Medical teams ran drills. Equipment was checked and rechecked, and Samantha reviewed security protocols with the captains of the escort vessels. Intelligence suggests minimal risk, Captain Ben Harding of the escort ship Sentinel said during their briefing. Small-scale pirate activity has been reported in nearby systems, but nothing our defenses can't handle. I don't want to take chances, Samantha replied. This convoy carries enough medical supplies to be tempting to someone desperate enough. Understood. We'll maintain combat readiness throughout the journey. Later that evening, Samantha found herself in the ship's mess hall, picking at a meal while reviewing colony data on her tablet. The room was nearly empty at this late hour. Mind if I join you? Jack Sullivan slid into the seat across from her, setting down a cup of coffee. Couldn't sleep? She asked. Too much on my mind. He gestured to her barely touched food. You should eat. Can't help anyone if you collapse from exhaustion. Samantha smiled and took a bite. You sound like my father. Your father sounds like a wise man. Jack's expression grew serious. Sam, I've been going over the colony's transmissions. Something doesn't add up. What do you mean? The pattern of the disease spread. It's too uniform. Most outbreaks have clusters, hotspots. This one is spreading in an almost perfect pattern. Samantha set down her fork. You think it's not natural? I'm not sure. I flagged it for Dr. Garcia to review. but I thought you should know. Their conversation was interrupted by Communications Officer Catherine Doyle. Lieutenant, we're receiving a priority message from Earth Command. Samantha stood immediately. Put it through to the bridge. I'm on my way. Minutes later, she stared at the transmission data, jaw tight. Confirmed sightings of SCAR collective vessels in the Proxima system, she read aloud. The SCAR? Jack's face paled. They're not supposed to be anywhere near Proxima. Apparently, they didn't get the memo. Samantha turned to her navigation. Officer. How long until we reach Proxima? At current speed, 36 hours, Lieutenant. She made a quick decision. Inform the convoy. Yellow alert status. I want weapon systems checked and shields at standby. You think they'll attack a medical convoy? Eliza asked, having joined them on the bridge. The SCAR joined the Confederation just before Earth did. They opposed our membership from the beginning, Samantha explained. I don't know what they're doing in Proxima, but I'm not taking chances. The journey continued without incident. As they approached the Proxima system, the mood on the Mercy grew tense but focused. Medical teams continued preparations while security personnel ran combat drills. Dr. Garcia approached Samantha on the bridge 20 hours into their journey. Lieutenant, I've reviewed the disease progression data. Sullivan was right. This doesn't look natural. You think it's engineered? Samantha asked quietly. I need more evidence, but yes, that's my suspicion. The question is, by whom and why? Before she could respond, the ship's sensors lit up. They had entered the Proxima system. Standard approach vector, Samantha ordered. Hail the colony. After a brief delay, a haggard face appeared on the main screen. This is Administrator Paul Hayes of Proxima Colony. Thank God you're here, Mercy. We brought supplies and personnel. As requested, Samantha replied. We'll begin shuttle operations as soon as we establish orbit. Thank you. Our situation is... The transmission crackled with interference. Administrator? Samantha leaned forward. We're losing your signal. Incoming. Transmission. The administrator's face was replaced by static, then a new signal broke through. Mercy, this is Mining Facility Omega, 20,000 kilometers from your position. A panicked voice came through. We have multiple casualties and our medical bay is overwhelmed. Please, we need immediate assistance. Samantha glanced at Jack, who was already checking the facility's location on their charts. It's a small detour, he said. We could send one of the smaller medical ships. Do it, Samantha decided. The Compassion can break off and assist while we continue to the main colony. As orders were relayed and the Compassion changed course, Catherine looked up from her station. Lieutenant, I'm detecting unusual energy readings from the vicinity of the mining facility. Samantha felt a chill run down her spine. What kind of readings? Consistent with weapons charging. In that moment, Samantha knew they had made a terrible mistake. Red alert! Recall the Compassion immediately. Shields up. But it was too late. The space around the mining facility lit up with weapons fire as hidden ships suddenly decloaked. The Compassion, caught completely unprepared, took multiple direct hits. SCAR vessels, Jack shouted. At least 6 of them, heavily armed. Evasive maneuvers, Samantha ordered. All ships, defensive formation. Get me a channel to those SCAR ships. As the convoy scrambled to respond, more SCAR vessels appeared from behind Proxima's moon, cutting off their escape route. They had sailed directly into a trap. They're jamming our long-range communications, Catherine reported, fingers flying over her console. I'll try to get a distress signal to Earth. Samantha gripped the arms of her command chair as the first impacts rocked the Mercy. On the view screen, she watched in horror as one of their escort vessels erupted in flames. They're targeting our engines, Jack reported grimly. They don't want us to escape. Samantha's mind raced. They were a medical convoy, not a combat group. They couldn't win this fight. All medical personnel to evacuation stations, she ordered. Begin patient transfer to escape pods. Essential crew only on combat stations. As alarms blared throughout the ship, Dr. Garcia grabbed her arm. Samantha, the research data, if they get it, download everything to your neural implant. Then wipe the ship's databases, she told him. Go. As Garcia rushed off, Samantha turned back to the view screen. The largest SCAR vessel was approaching the Mercy, its weapons trained directly on the bridge. Catherine, get that distress call out, Samantha said quietly. Make sure Earth knows exactly who did this. The bridge shook violently as another blast hit them. This was supposed to be a mission of mercy. Now it had become something else entirely. The beginning of a war that would change the galaxy forever. The bridge of the USS Mercy shuddered as another blast hit the shields. Warning lights flashed everywhere, and the smell of burned circuitry filled the air. Lieutenant Samantha Wright gripped her command chair as she shouted orders. Divert power. To the rear shields. Keep the medical bay protected at all costs. Jack Sullivan worked frantically at his station. Shields at 32%. The Compassion is completely disabled, and the Sentinel is taking heavy fire. Through the view screen, Samantha watched as the smaller medical ship Compassion drifted helplessly, its engines dark. The SCAR vessels circled it like hungry sharks. Catherine, status on the distress signal? Samantha asked. Communications Officer Catherine Doyle didn't look up from her console. Almost there, Lieutenant. The SCAR are jamming everything, but I've found a narrow band they missed. It won't carry much data, but a massive explosion rocked the ship, throwing Catherine to the floor. Her station sparked and smoked. Get her to the medical bay, Samantha ordered as 2 crew members rushed to help Catherine. Blood streamed down the communications officer's face, but she pulled herself up. Wait, Catherine said weakly. I just need to finish this. She reached up with shaking hands and pressed a final sequence of buttons. Signal sent, but I don't know how much got through. Samantha nodded grimly. Good work, Doyle. Get her out of here, she told the crew members. As Catherine was carried away, Samantha turned to Jack. Launch all emergency beacons. Even if our message didn't get through, the beacons might. Already done, Jack replied. But they're shooting them down almost as fast as we can launch them. The largest SCAR ship moved directly in front of the Mercy, its weapons ports glowing ominously. The ship was at least 3 times their size, with jagged edges that made it look like a predatory creature. They're hailing us, the replacement communications officer announced. Samantha straightened her uniform. On screen, the view screen flickered, and a SCAR commander appeared. The alien's scaled face featured 4 yellow eyes arranged in a diamond pattern. Sharp teeth showed when he spoke. I am Commander Vextar of the SCAR Collective, the alien said in heavily accented standard. Your ships are defeated. Surrender, now. This is Lieutenant Samantha Wright of the USS Mercy. We are on a humanitarian mission with the full authorization of the Galactic Confederation. Your attack on medical vessels is a war crime under Confederation law. Vextar made a sound. That might have been laughter. Laws, always laws with humans. You hide your ambitions behind pretty words like humanitarian and mercy. We're carrying vaccines and medical equipment for a colony suffering from disease, Samantha said firmly. Check our cargo if you don't believe me. Oh, we will, Vextar replied. After we board your vessel, power down your shields in 30 seconds or we will destroy another of your ships. The transmission cut off. Samantha turned to Jack. How many escape pods have launched? She asked quietly. 17. Maybe 150 people got away. And how many are still aboard? Jack's face was grim. Over 300. Mostly medical personnel and patients too critical to move. Samantha made her decision. Begin evacuation procedures for all remaining non-essential personnel. I want as many people off this ship as possible. Use the pods on the far side of the ship, away from the SCAR vessels. What about you? Jack asked. Someone needs to stay and buy time. She turned to the bridge crew. I'm ordering you all to evacuate. Get to the pods. No one moved. Jack stood straighter. With respect, Lieutenant, we're staying with you. Samantha felt a lump in her throat but pushed it down. Fine. But I want Dr. Garcia and his team off this ship now. Their research is too important. In the medical bay, Dr. Alan Garcia worked feverishly to download critical data to his neural implant, Around him, medical staff rushed to evacuate patients who could be moved. "Doctor, we need to go now," a nurse urged him. "Almost done," Alan muttered, his eyes closed as the data transfer completed. When the final file was secured, he opened his eyes. The door to the medical bay slid open. 2 human security officers backed in, firing their weapons down the corridor. One fell as a shot hit him in the chest. "They've breached the hull," the other guard shouted before a blast caught him in the head. 3 SCAR warriors stormed into the medical bay, weapons raised. Their armor was black with red markings, and their helmets concealed their faces except for their glowing yellow eyes. "Nobody move," one of them shouted. The medical staff froze. Alan slowly raised his hands, positioning himself in front of a young patient. "We are unarmed medical personnel," he said calmly. "Under Confederation law, silence human," the lead SCAR hissed. He pointed at the supplies and equipment. "Begin loading everything valuable. Commander Vextar wants all medical supplies and technology." As the SCAR began ransacking the medical bay, Alan turned slightly to the nurse beside him. "Get to the escape pods," he whispered. "I'll distract them." Before she could protest, Alan stepped forward. "Those supplies are meant for dying people. Children, your own kind are suffering on that moon too." The lead SCAR turned on him. "Our kind? You think we care about the weaklings who live alongside humans?" He stepped closer to Alan. "The strong survive. The weak perish. That is the only law that matters." On the bridge, Samantha watched as SCAR boarding parties breached multiple sections of the ship. "They're taking everything," Jack reported. "Medical supplies, equipment, even our research data." "Have they found Garcia?" Samantha asked. "Unknown. Last report had him in Medical Bay 3, but communications are down in that section now." The ship rocked again as more systems failed. Smoke filled the bridge, and emergency lighting cast everything in an eerie red glow. "Lieutenant," the tactical officer called out. "They're herding our people to the cargo bay. Looks like they're taking prisoners." Samantha's jaw tightened. "Keep broadcasting on all frequencies. Someone has to hear us." In the medical bay, Alan watched helplessly as SCAR warriors roughly handled patients, throwing those who couldn't. "Walk to the floor." "You call yourselves a civilized species?" Alan challenged the SCAR leader. "This is barbarism." The SCAR grabbed Alan by the throat. "Your species is the true barbarian. You've been quarantined for centuries for good reason. Now you infect the Confederation with your weakness." He threw Alan against a wall. "Take this one to Commander Vexitar. He seems important." 2 hours later, Samantha knelt on the floor of her own bridge, hands bound behind her back. Most of her bridge crew lay dead around her. Jack was beside her, his face bloody but his eyes defiant. Commander Vextar walked slowly around them, examining the human ship with curiosity. "Such primitive technology. It's hard to believe you were ever considered a threat." "If we're so primitive, why attack us?" Samantha asked. Vexitar leaned down. "Because you don't belong here. Earth was contained for a reason. The old species knew what would happen if humans spread among the stars." "We came to help people," Samantha said. "No. You came to expand. To infect this galaxy with your ideas." He stood straight. "But you failed. When no word comes from your convoy, your leaders will understand. The galaxy is not for humans, as..." Vextar turned to leave. Samantha called after him. "You've made a mistake, Commander. You should have destroyed us completely and left no survivors." Vextar paused. "And why is that?" "Because now Earth will know exactly what happened here. And unlike you, we don't leave our people behind." The SCAR commander laughed. "Your homeworld is weeks away at your fastest speeds. By then there will be nothing left of your ships but dust." As he left the bridge, Jack leaned toward Samantha. "You think Earth received Catherine's message?" Samantha watched as the SCAR began planting explosive devices around the bridge. "They had to have gotten something. And something is all they'll need." "For what?" Samantha's eyes hardened. "To make the SCAR Collective regret ever touching a human hospital ship." The emergency session of Earth's Defense Council began at 3:17 a.m. Earth Standard Time. The large circular chamber was filled with military officers, government officials, and scientific advisors. The atmosphere was tense as Admiral Peter Blackwood stood at the center, his face grim. At 600 yesterday, we received a partial distress signal from the UESS Mercy, Admiral Blackwood said. His voice was steady, but those who knew him could see the anger in his eyes. The signal was badly damaged, but our technicians recovered enough to confirm an attack by SCAR collective forces on our humanitarian convoy. President Nicole Warren sat forward in her chair. She had been woken just an hour ago, but her eyes were clear and focused. Do we have confirmation of survivors? 3 escape pods have been located by our long-range scouts, Blackwood replied. 27 survivors in total, mostly medical personnel. They confirmed that the SCAR attacked without warning and began boarding the ships. What about Lieutenant Wright, Dr. Garcia? Asked Defense Minister Harold Cooper. No sign of them among the survivors. We believe they remained aboard the Mercy. Silence fell over the room. Everyone understood what that likely meant. One of the survivors managed to preserve sensor data, Blackwood continued. He pressed a button, and a holographic display appeared in the center of the room. It showed the Mercy and other human ships surrounded by SCAR vessels. The attack was coordinated and deliberate. This was not a misunderstanding or a rogue captain. This was planned. President Warren's voice cut through the quiet. Options? Admiral Blackwood looked around the room, then back to the President. Madam President, I recommend immediate implementation of Protocol Prometheus. Murmurs spread through the chamber. Most people there had never heard of Protocol Prometheus, those who had looked shocked. Admiral, said Foreign Secretary Olivia Palmer, Protocol Prometheus was designed as a last resort against existential threats to Earth. Surely this situation, while tragic, doesn't warrant. They attacked a hospital. Ship, Blackwood interrupted. They took our medical personnel prisoner. They stole supplies meant for a dying colony. If we don't respond with overwhelming force, the SCAR and others will see it as weakness. They will do it again. Director, Ryan Lawson of Earth Intelligence Service stood up. Madam President, I support the Admiral's recommendation. Our intelligence suggests the SCAR have been planning this for months. They see humanity's entry into the Confederation as a threat to their expansion plans. What exactly does Protocol Prometheus entail? Asked President Warren. Admiral Blackwood's face was like stone. A complete military response using capabilities we've kept hidden from the Confederation. We activate our reserve fleet, deploy our specialized combat units, and neutralize the SCAR Collective's ability to wage war. The Confederation will see this as an escalation, Palmer warned. The Confederation failed to protect our ships in their territory, Blackwood replied. Their laws mean nothing if they cannot enforce them. General Maria Diaz, the tactical commander of Earth's Space Forces, spoke up. Madam President, we have the capability to end this quickly. The SCAR have never seen what humans can really do when provoked. President Warren stood and walked to the holographic display. She stared at the image of the Mercy, surrounded by enemy ships. Those were doctors, nurses, people who devoted their lives to saving others, she said quietly. How quickly can Protocol Prometheus be implemented? We can have the retribution. Force ready in 24 hours, Admiral Blackwood replied. Our hidden shipyards in the asteroid belt have been maintaining a reserve fleet for precisely this type of situation. President Warren turned to face the room. I want to be clear about what we're discussing. This will reveal military capabilities we've kept secret since joining the Confederation. There's no going back from this. With respect, Madam President, Blackwood said. The SCAR made that decision for us when they attacked our medical ships. After a moment of silence, President Warren nodded. Activate Protocol Prometheus, but I want this done surgically. We target military assets only. No civilian casualties if it can be avoided. Understood, Madam President, Blackwood replied, as how. The council members filed out to begin preparations. Director Lawson approached Admiral Blackwood privately. You've been waiting for this opportunity, haven't you, Peter? Lawson asked. Blackwood's expression didn't change. I've been preparing for it. There's a difference. The SCAR have no idea what they've done. No, Blackwood agreed. But they will. At a hidden facility beneath the lunar surface, General Maria Diaz addressed the commanders of Earth's special combat teams. The room was filled with men and women in plain black uniforms without insignia. Operation Retribution begins in 12 hours, she announced. Your targets have been uploaded to your neural links. Team Alpha will secure the remains of our convoy. Team Beta will disable the SCAR defense grid. Team Gamma will locate and extract any survivors. A captain raised his hand. Rules of engagement, General? Diaz's expression was cold. Limited. Anyone who surrenders is to be taken prisoner. Anyone who resists is to be neutralized. In Earth orbit, massive hangar doors opened in what had appeared to be ordinary space stations. Ships emerged, sleek, dark vessels unlike the bright white humanitarian ships the Confederation had seen before. These ships bore no markings except for a simple designation number and the image of a flame. Admiral Blackwood stood on the bridge of the largest vessel, the EDF Nemesis. Around him, crew members worked efficiently to prepare the ship for departure. Status. Report, he ordered. All systems ready, Admiral, replied his second-in-command, Captain Lisa Reed. The fleet is assembling in formation, quantum drives at full capacity. And our special packages? Loaded and secure. The quantum disruption fields have been calibrated for SCAR shield frequencies. Blackwood nodded. The Confederation ambassador is requesting to come aboard. Shall I deny the request? Blackwood considered for a moment. No. Let him see what he's about to witness. It might save us having to repeat this lesson elsewhere. On the diplomatic level of the Nemesis, Ambassador Zorn of the Confederation paced nervously. He was a tall, thin alien with pale blue skin and large, worried eyes. When Admiral Blackwood entered, the ambassador immediately approached him. Admiral, I must protest this action in the strongest possible terms, Zorn said. The Confederation Council has not authorized any military response. We are sending our own investigators to— Your investigators will find nothing but debris, Blackwood interrupted. The SCAR attacked our people. We will respond. But this level of mobilization— Zorn gestured at the viewports where dozens of warships were visible. This goes beyond self-defense. The Confederation cannot condone— We're not asking for permission, Ambassador. Blackwood's voice was quiet but firm. Earth stood alone for centuries while the rest of the galaxy watched. We developed technologies you can't imagine, not to conquer, but to ensure our survival. Are you threatening the Confederation? Zorn asked, his voice rising. No. We're showing you that humanity will not be bullied or pushed aside. The SCAR attacked doctors and nurses on a mission of mercy. Now they will learn why Earth was kept isolated for so long. On the bridge of the Nemesis, Captain Reed approached Admiral Blackwood upon his return. Sir, all ships report ready. The Mom. Retribution Force awaits your command. Blackwood took his place in the command chair. On the main screen, 50 warships hovered in perfect formation, their hulls absorbing light rather than reflecting it. Begin the jump countdown, he ordered. Target, SCAR Collective Homeworld. As the quantum drives powered up, Blackwood thought of Lieutenant Wright and her crew. He had reviewed her service record, a brilliant officer with a promising future, now likely dead or captured. They should have left our people alone, he said quietly. Captain Reed nodded. Yes, sir. They'll learn that lesson soon enough. Jump in 10 seconds, announced the navigation officer. As the countdown reached 0, the fleet of Earth warships vanished in flashes of blue light, bound for SCAR space, and bringing with them a response that would change the balance of power in the galaxy forever. Commander Vextar stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Dominant Will. Around him, officers monitored screens showing the SCAR home system. The attack on the human convoy had been successful beyond his expectations. His ships had returned, with valuable medical technology and supplies that would give the SCAR an edge in their ongoing border disputes. Commander, the prisoners have been processed, reported his second-in-command, Sub-Commander Kraz. Most have been sent to labor camps. The high-value ones are in the special holding facility for questioning. And the human lieutenant? Vextar asked. Still alive, though not very cooperative. The doctor, too. Vextar nodded with satisfaction. They will break eventually. The information in their neural implants could be valuable. Sir, called out a sensor officer, we're detecting unusual energy readings at the edge of the system. Vextar turned to the main view screen. Source? Unknown, sir. It's not matching any known signature in our database. A sudden flash of blue light filled the screen. When it faded, 50 black ships hung in space where there had been nothing a moment before. The vessels were unlike any Vextar had seen before, sleek, angular, and seeming to absorb the light around them. Identify those ships, Vextar commanded, a hint of alarm in his voice. Before his officers could respond, every communication system on the bridge activated simultaneously. Admiral Blackwood's face appeared on all screens. This is Admiral Peter Blackwood of Earth Defense Force. You have attacked and destroyed vessels on a humanitarian mission, killed medical personnel, and taken prisoners of war. You have 20 minutes to surrender all human captives and prepare for boarding. There will be no second warning. Vextar's 4 eyes widened in shock, then narrowed in rage. How dare they? Activate all defense systems. Call in every ship we have. Throughout the SCAR system, alarm signals blared. Defense platforms powered up weapons and patrol ships moved to intercept the human fleet. Aboard the EDF Nemesis, Admiral Blackwood watched the SCAR response with cold calculation. They're deploying their fleet in standard defense formation, reported Captain Reed. As expected, Blackwood replied. Deploy the quantum disruption field. Reed nodded to a technician who activated a series of controls. From the human ships, invisible waves of energy spread outward, washing over the SCAR vessels. On the dominant will, chaos erupted as systems began to fail. Our shields are down, shouted an officer. Weapon systems offline. Impossible. Vextar slammed his fist on a console. How can they affect all ships simultaneously? Sir, they're launching small craft, another officer reported. Fighters? Vextar asked. No, they're too small. More like drones. Outside, thousands of tiny objects deployed from the Earth ships. Each no bigger than a human hand, they moved with incredible speed and precision, forming swarms that enveloped SCAR vessels. Wherever they touched, systems failed and weapons powered down. Tactical analysis, Blackwood requested aboard the Nemesis. Drone swarms performing as expected, General Diaz reported. 87% of SCAR weapons have been neutralized. Their communication network is down. Begin Phase 2, Blackwood Diaz. Ordered. Larger craft now launched from the Earth fleet. Transport ships carrying Special Forces teams. They moved swiftly toward key SCAR facilities, including the prison where human survivors were believed to be held. In his cell, Dr. Allen Garcia heard the alarms. His face was bruised from interrogation sessions, but his eyes lit up at the sound. Next to him, Lieutenant Samantha Wright raised her head weakly. What's happening? She asked. I think, Allen said with a small smile. Earth got our message. The cell door suddenly blew inward. Through the smoke stepped 2 figures in black combat suits. Their helmets concealed their faces, but the Earth insignia on their shoulders was clear. Lieutenant Wright, Dr. Garcia, one of them asked. Team Gamma, Earth Special Forces, we're here to take you home. Samantha tried to stand but stumbled. The soldiers moved quickly to support her. My crew, she managed to say. We're extracting all survivors, the soldier assured her. Admiral Blackwood sends his compliments and apologizes for the delay. As they were helped from the cell, Allen asked, How many ships did Earth send? The soldier's voice held a note of pride. All of them, sir. On the dominant will, Vextar watched in horror as Earth forces systematically dismantled the SCAR military. Defense platforms exploded one after another. Ships drifted powerless in space. Ground installations reported being overrun by human soldiers who moved like shadows and wielded weapons that could penetrate any armor. This is impossible, he whispered. They were supposed to be peaceful. Weak. Sir, Kraz said urgently, the humans have breached our inner security. They're heading for the bridge. Vexatar drew his sidearm. Seal all doors. We will make our stand here. but the doors to the bridge exploded inward before his order could be carried out. Earth soldiers poured through, their weapons aimed at every SCAR officer. Behind them walked Admiral Blackwood himself, his uniform pristine, his face expressionless. "Commander, Vextar," Blackwood said calmly. "I believe we have matters to discuss." Vextar raised his weapon, but a shot from one of the soldiers knocked it from his hand. "You cannot do this," Vextar snarled. "The Confederation will not allow—" "The Confederation," Blackwood interrupted, "is currently watching this operation with great interest. They seem quite concerned about the attack on medical vessels under their protection." Blackwood stepped closer. "You thought humanity was weak because we came offering medicine instead of threats. You thought our warships didn't exist because we chose to send hospital ships first. That was your mistake." Vextar's scales flattened against his skin, a sign of fear in his species. "What do you want?" "Unconditional surrender of all SCAR, military forces, release of all prisoners, full reparations for the attack on our convoy." "And if I refuse?" Blackwood's expression didn't change. "Look outside, Commander." On the view screen, the remaining SCAR ships were being systematically disabled by Earth forces. The planet below was now surrounded by human vessels. "We could have come with planet killers," Blackwood said quietly. "We could have wiped your species from existence. Instead, we came with precision. Remember that." Blackwood turned to leave, then paused. "Oh, and one more thing." He nodded to one of his soldiers who activated a device. A holographic recording appeared, showing the SCAR attack on the Mercy. It showed medical personnel being shot, patients being thrown from beds, supplies being stolen. "This recording is being broadcast to every world in the Confederation," Blackwood said. "Everyone will know what you did, and what happened as a result." In the medical bay of the Nemesis, Samantha Wright watched as Dr. Garcia and other rescued personnel received treatment. Her own injuries had been stabilized, though recovery would take time. Admiral Blackwood entered the room and approached her bed. "Lieutenant," he said with a nod, "you and your crew served with distinction." "Did anyone else survive?" she asked. 47 from the Mercy, 31 from the other ships. We're still searching." Samantha closed her eyes briefly. "So many. Lost? The colony?" she asked. "Did they get the medical supplies?" "We're delivering them now," Blackwood assured her, along with additional support. "The SCAR said Earth was quarantined for a reason," Samantha said. "That the old species feared us." Blackwood's face showed a hint of a smile. "They were right, to fear us. Not because we're conquerors, but because we defend our own. The galaxy is about to learn that lesson." As the Nemesis moved into orbit around the SCAR homeworld, news of Earth's response spread across the Confederation like wildfire. The message was clear. Attacking humans who came in peace was a mistake no one would make twice. 3 months after the SCAR incident, the Grand Chamber of the Galactic Confederation Council buzzed with nervous energy. Representatives from over 200 species filled the room, their voices a mix of different languages and tones. At the center of the chamber stood a circular platform where speakers addressed the council. Today, Earth would address the Confederation for the first time since its devastating response to the SCAR attack. "The human delegation has arrived," announced the council moderator, a tall being with silver skin. The chamber fell silent as the doors opened and 5 humans entered. President Nicole Warren led the group, followed by Admiral Blackwood, Lieutenant Samantha Wright, Dr. Alan Garcia, and Ambassador Eliza Monroe. Lieutenant Wright walked with a slight limp, a reminder of her time in SCAR captivity. As they took their places on the speaking platform, many council members shifted uncomfortably. The human's reputation had changed dramatically in recent months. President Warren stepped forward. Her simple blue suit contrasted with the elaborate clothing worn by most representatives. "Members of the Confederation Council," she began, her voice clear and strong. 3 months ago, a human medical convoy was attacked while on a mission of mercy. Today I am here to explain Earth's position moving forward. She paused, looking around the chamber. "But first, I believe truth is necessary. Earth's isolation, was not self-imposed, as many of you have been told. It was a quarantine enforced by the elder species of this galaxy. Murmurs spread through the chamber. The representatives of the oldest Confederation species looked particularly uncomfortable. For centuries, humanity was kept from joining this community of worlds, Warren continued. We were told it was for our own development. But now we know. The truth, it was fear. Admiral Blackwood stepped forward. While confined to our solar system, we prepared. Not for conquest, but for survival. We developed technologies that some of you thought impossible. We built defenses that you never detected. When we finally joined the Confederation, we kept these capabilities hidden as a sign of good faith. Lieutenant Wright moved to stand beside them. The chamber was completely silent now. I commanded the UESS Mercy, she said, her voice steady despite her still healing injuries. We came with medicine and hope. We were met with violence and cruelty. My crew, people dedicated to healing, were killed or imprisoned. Dr. Garcia joined them. I was developing a cure for the plague on Proxima's moon. The scar destroyed our work and stole our supplies, leaving thousands to suffer and die. Ambassador Monroe completed the line of humans. We joined the Confederation believing in its principles of peace and cooperation. We trusted in its protection. That trust was misplaced. President Warren moved forward again. But despite this betrayal, Earth still believes in those principles, which is why I am pleased to announce that Dr. Garcia has completed his work. She nodded to Garcia, who held up a small container. This contains the vaccine for the Proxima plague. We have already begun distribution to the colony. All affected individuals, human and Proximan alike, should recover fully. The council moderator spoke up. This is commendable, President Warren, but it does not address the matter of Earth's military action against the SCAR Collective, which violated numerous Confederation laws. Did it? Warren asked calmly. The SCAR attacked and destroyed medical vessels on a sanctioned humanitarian mission. They imprisoned and tortured the survivors. They stole supplies meant for a dying colony. Where was the Confederation then? The moderator had no answer. Admiral Blackwood stepped forward again. The SCAR believed that Earth was weak because we showed compassion first. That was their mistake, one that others would be wise not to repeat. Is that a threat, Admiral? Asked the representative of the Volari, a species known for their military power. No, Blackwood replied. It is a statement of fact. Earth will continue to offer aid and cooperation to those who need it. But we will also protect our people with absolute commitment. President Warren raised her hand for silence. Moving forward, Earth proposes the following principles for all members of the Confederation to adopt. First, all humanitarian missions will be considered sacrosanct. Any attack on medical vessels or personnel will be treated as an act of war against the entire Confederation, she continued. Second, Earth will share its medical and scientific advancements freely with all peaceful worlds. Our doctors and scientists stand ready to help any who need them. And third, Warren's voice grew firmer. Earth will maintain its defense capabilities as they are. We will not disarm, we will not stand down, and we will not apologize for protecting our people. The chamber erupted in voices. Some angry, some supportive, all intense. The moderator called for order. These are bold proposals, President Warren, the moderator said when quiet returned. Many will see the third principle as a direct challenge to Confederation authority. It is not a challenge, Warren replied. It is a correction. The Confederation exists to protect its members. When it fails to do so, members must protect themselves. Later, as the Earth delegation prepared to return to their ships, Admiral Blackwood and President Warren stood alone for a moment. Do you think they understood the message? Warren asked quietly. Blackwood watched as representatives from smaller worlds approached Ambassador Monroe, seeking private meetings with Earth. Some did. The ones who need our protection. The others, he shrugged. They'll learn to live with it. The SCAR? Warren asked. Their military has been dismantled. Their government reformed. They'll spend the next decade rebuilding under Confederation supervision. Warren nodded. And our new ship? Blackwood allowed himself a small smile. The UESS Second Chance will launch next week, better armed than the Mercy was, but still primarily a hospital ship. A fitting symbol, Warren said. Healer and protector in one. On the main dock of Earth's orbital station, a grand ceremony took place a week later. Lieutenant Samantha Wright, now promoted to captain, stood in a crisp uniform before the crew of the new vessel. The UESS Second Chance represents everything humanity stands for, she told them. We bring healing to those who need it. We bring hope to those who have none. And yes, we bring strength to defend the defenseless. As the massive ship prepared to depart on its first mission, its hull gleamed in the sunlight. Like its predecessor, it was primarily white, the color of medical vessels, but now it bore armor plating and weapon ports that weren't hidden or disguised. Throughout the Confederation, species watched the launch with various emotions, some with relief, some with concern, some with new respect. Among them, a young Scar, watched from a rehabilitation center where Dr. Garcia was treating plague victims. The Scar turned to the human doctor. "Why help us after what my people did?" he asked. Garcia checked the Scar's vital signs before answering. "Because that's what humans do. We heal when we can. We fight when we must." As the Second Chance disappeared, into the darkness of space, a new message spread across the galaxy. Humanity had arrived, bringing medicine in one hand and a sword in the other. Both were offered with equal conviction, and no one would make the mistake of attacking a human rescue convoy again,